Hello, my name is Rene Perez. I will be talking about the Yocahu and Atabey and the importance of the Maracas. But first, I will just start off on the importance of the linguistics part of the Tainos. The linguistics, learning the linguistics is very important to learn because it gives you a basic idea of the meanings of certain things that actually you can decode of even the misunderstood terms in the chronicles that the conquistadors kind of use. A great example is the word like ni Taino and Taino, So, when I first started, I always thought that Taino meant good people, and ni Taino means nobility and noble ones. But when I first started in linguistics, getting into the deeper aspects and the words and languages, I come to find out that Taino didn't mean good people, and Taino didn't mean noble, And when I started to get into the linguistics, started studying like Cardinagos and Locono and Wayu, Wahiro, Garifuna, all of this gave me a basic idea. All these languages are related to the Taino lexicon because they all spoke Arawak, and I came to find out that ni Taino didn't mean nobility, it didn't mean anything. It just meant my people, my relatives, my friends, my family. That's exactly what it meant. And I always question on the term Taino as well. Sometimes when you study linguistics, you always have to question. You have to become a human question mark. So question everything. You can't just come around and start using terms without knowing the true meaning of them, So the Taino, when I started researching the Taino, I questioned it. How do they know it meant good people if everything was coming from people who didn't understand the Taino culture, who didn't speak the indigenous language? So by digging deeper, I found out that it meant just people, my family. It's Carinagos that have the same thing. Teño or Teño, which means my relatives, my family. And they also have ni Teño, which means my relatives and my family. You see, so ni Taino is the longer version of Taino. Taino is just the short version of it. It's just basically saying family or friend. Ni is my friend, my family. So by reading Columbus's chronicles, and when you start getting into linguistics, you can see how he made that mistake. Of how he kind of mistaken the word nobility. And because if you read it carefully again, you realize that he basically said that ni Taino, they use another personage called ni Taino. He says, don't know if it means governor, judge, or hidalgo. And hidalgo is phonetically sounds very similar to ni Taino. And hidalgo is a term they use in Spain, a very old word. Hidalgo means nobility, you see? So you can see how they kind of mixed it that ni Taino means nobility, because they were going for what they thought it meant, because they were trying to compare contrast with their words of Hidalgo and ni Taino, And remember, Europeans they only thought about was kingship, rulership, and royalty. So of course when you look at a person coming with feathers and he looked like a king, they're going to think he's noble, or the noble one, the chief. So anyways, the linguistics is very significant, and it's learning it will make you understand more of give you more of a bigger view of the Taino culture, our culture. And once you get into it, it's like going to the rabbit hole. You never want to stop doing it,
All right. Yeah. Can you talk about Yocahu?
Well, Yocahu, I found that in certain cultures, in indigenous cultures, they have very similarities of Yocahu, such as Kalinago in South America. And Kalinago is actually called local. And South America, the name, the Loconos, or loco means man, so it's very similar to the Kalinago myth of the first man named Loco. In Puerto Rico, in the Yunque, there is a story of the spirit of Luquillo. And the word Luquillo is basically the form, the way it's, the structure of the name is part native and part Spanish. So loco and quillo, so the Spanish and the native. So loquillo is the same as loco in Kalinago, which makes sense to me because on the eastern side of Puerto Rico, it was very big influence of Carib, and there you can see that the whole linguistics is basically on the Kalinago, probably a similarity to the Kalinago group, because there's evidence that Puerto Rico was probably a Carib island or Kalinago island, because there are the names of certain towns, certain caciques have a lot of Carib and Arawakan names. Like for example, Alwe Bana. Alwe is a Carib word, as in means the sun. You know, so. But yeah, Yocahu is the same individual in the Kalinago myth named Loco, and the Kalinago Loco, he falls from the sky, so he's the first man. Now, what was interesting is that, and Yokahu's mother, Atabey, or Atabeira, her name is basically, she is the beginning, or the birth of the beginning of birth, the principle. I've been trying to break down the linguistic part of her name, because there is some sort of controversial of her name, you know, as I might say, because the word bay on it doesn't seem to fit an Arawakan lexicon of linguistics. I don't see that word bay, you know. In Kalinago, they do have a similar name to Atabey. It's Atatabu, which means the beginning or the principle. So you see what I was getting at, that Atabey means the principle, the beginning, the birth of something. According to Pedro Montier, he calls her name Atabeira, which beta means water, you know, which makes sense because water is more of a feminine aspect. So she is the birth of the goddess of the waters, of the universe, or the galaxies. If you have understand astronomy, and the firmament in the universe, there is water there. And apparently, according to astrologists and scientists, basically everything comes from the firmament because it's made out of water. Comets, everything is there. But to the Tainos, is, you know, the indigenous people, the universe was everything to them. You know, it was a map. And you know, so who was Yokahu? I don't know, but perhaps it's he is the principle, maybe the birth of humanity. And Atabey is the principle of humanity, the birth of humanity. So loco means man, but you think man is the masculine aspect. But what if man is both? You know, what if it has to do with female and male? You know, maybe it's just a title for female and male. You know, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's just humanity, the birth of the indigenous people of the Caribbean, according to their myth. So that's what I've been trying to work on, and it's very complicated because the Taino language is not easy to break down, considering that the language is very claudioscopic. You know, it's a mixture of Wayu, it's a mixture of Carib, it's a mixture of basically all types of languages from South America, a little bit of Mayan, and put it into like one. You know, so that's what I've been working on, trying to make more sense of it.
Hey, can you elaborate a little more on the maraca?
Yeah, Maraca is an instrument. Basically a lot of cultures have used the maracas, and there's ceremonies and ceremonial rituals. In Africa, you see these things. So in other cultures, they use it for medicine and shamanistic practices. But The maraca is apparently a woman instrument. It basically comes from the woman. You know, I'm not talking about from the African perspective, but from the indigenous perspective, from the Arawak from according to the people from South America. The maraca, the reason is a woman, because the way it's the difference of the head part of the maraca, the little circle part, according to the Arawaks, that is basically the feminine aspect, the little circle part with the calabash, and the handle is a male aspect, so it's the union between the male and the female. But the word maraca in certain Arawaks, in certain languages, especially in South America, means Pleiades, the seven sisters or the seven wanderers, or in the constellation Taurus. But in certain cultures, which this is very interesting, in certain cultures, Pleiades runs the head of the human being. And the calabash, according to South America, is the head part of the human being. But it's also the women aspect because of the circle. Now the pebbles inside the maraca is the basic fundamental ideas. You see, so when you shake them, you manifest those ideas, or spirits, or healing aspects, whatever you're trying to do with music. And so I found that kind of intriguing, you know, and it comes from the women. You know, a lot of people don't believe that there can be women, women can play a big role in certain things, but people have to understand that the indigenous people come from a matriarchal society. You know, it's the woman principle. They're the first teachers of everything. You know, and this is very common knowledge. You know, when you're born, who takes care of you, who teaches you? You know, who's your first teacher? Your mother. You know, so the women were the spiritual, and women are very spiritual, high frequency beings. You know, but yeah, the maraca is basically the union between the male and female. And it's an instrument basically coming from the woman. So if you think of the Taino perspective, right? You have Yocahu and you have Wa Bonito. And Wa Bonito goes into a journey, right? Saves a woman in the waters. Her name was, Guahayona. I'm sorry, I'm not worried about it. Guahayona goes into a journey. And he sees this woman in the ocean, beautiful water. You know, he sees this beautiful woman, like a mermaid type of thing. Actually, this is where the mermaid story comes from, because you see this in all cultures. There's always a being from a woman coming from the water, so it gives the man pleasure. You know, if you look at the Little Mermaid, she's looking for her prince. You know, she wants to become human to get with the man. But anyways, yes, he finds her in the waters, and she gives him great pleasure. Basically tries to cure him, and use medicinal plants, because he had something with his skin, right? And what she teaches him, she teaches the mysteries of the shamanistic mysteries. So he teaches him the shamanistic mysteries, or the principles. He becomes the first shaman. But where does it come from? The woman. You see? So she teaches them, she gives them pebbles, or called sibas, as a present for the maracas. You see? These sibas these stories are very similar to South America. You know, you have Arawanili, and you have Orehu, the story of Arawanili, Orehu. Arawanili is where it's the same as Guahayona and Wa Bonito. Same story. She gives Orehu gives Arawanili some pebbles, teaches him, gives him pleasure. He becomes the first shaman. She teaches him the mysteries of shamanism, and he becomes. This is where he learns the secrets of the maracas. You know, so is it possibly is this talking a story about the maraca, right? Of Juan Bonito being the male, Orehu, or being the female, and Guahayona being the male, and this is the maraca principle? Possibly. You know, no one knows, but it's very interesting to say the least that in South America, Pleiades is called the maraca, and the calabash is the head in certain cultures. And the pebbles in the maraca are the fundamental ideas. So, you know, there's a lot of it to kind of talk about, but I think the maraca, people should really give more of respect to the women, because they're very important in our culture today, and especially in the indigenous culture.